just doesn't apply to you because it may eventually apply to you. Okay? Here's my rule. If you had me last semester, same rules. Okay? So my rule, so in honors, you aren't allowed to retest. Right? It's not a thing. If you fail a test, you aren't allowed to retake it. You are allowed, or my kind of sort of way around it is by doing something called test corrections. Okay? Here's how test corrections work. Okay? You have to make below a 70 to take it. So like on Schoology, it should, I believe it tells you what you got out of 100. For those of you that have looked, right? It tells you what you got out of 100. So even though the test was out of 71, it converts it to whatever out of 100. Okay, so if you made 69 or lower out of 100, okay, you are eligible for test corrections. All right, how test corrections work? Because I'm coaching right now, obviously I'm not available in the evenings. Okay, so you have to come in the morning. Okay, I get here at 6:45. So if that applies to you and you want to do the test corrections, first of all, the test corrections are optional. So if you don't want to do them, that's fine. Okay, but if you want to, you have to come in the morning until I'm done coaching cross country, which won't be until the winter. Okay, so what will happen is we'll go over questions on your review that are similar to what you missed on your test. Okay, we'll go over those, we'll figure out any misunderstandings. You'll go home, you'll study, you'll come back a second time to tutoring, and you'll redo any questions you missed. Okay? And for up to half credit back. So say, for example, you missed a question that was worth 4 points. If you get it correct, you get 2 points back. Okay? And the highest you can make after your test corrections is a 70. And that's out of fairness for those that make a 70 on it who can't do them because they are not eligible. Does that make sense? Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the test correction process? Okay. So moving forward, we've got to do a better job of studying. Right? You've got to ask questions because everyone seemed fine and dandy during the review. And then all of a sudden we get to the test and I don't know. So I was pretty disappointed, to be honest. Yes.
How many major grades are we going to have this year?
That's another thing. Okay. So right now, I think I have 4. Or per year or per quarter?
Like throughout the entire year.
Oh, for the year, it depends. My guess would be, if you do 4 a quarter, that'd be 16. Okay? But your quarter grade still matters. Like, now that we're on this year system, you know, it all averages out at the end. But your quarter grade still matters. Like, you still get a report card, and your parents are still going to see that, right? Okay? So your quarter grade still matters. And we've only got, I don't remember, it's 3 at least, if not 4 major grades. Whereas last year, if you went here, you had like 5 or 6 a quarter. Okay? So you don't have a lot of wiggle room. But my hope is that since we get to do some prep on this first test, that we can take it as a learning opportunity and move forward. Okay? Are there any questions about anything at all? If you did well, kudos to you. I'm proud of you. But for the majority of us, that was not the case. All right. There are no questions. Then let's get started. So what we're going to do for the next couple of bell ringers is work on these absolute value equations. Okay? Like I said, they kicked our butt. All right? If you know how to do it, good for you. But we're going to go over it again. All right? So one of the big problems with these absolute value equations is we just weren't following the rules I talked about. Okay? There were lots of rules we had to do. You had to create 2 equations. You had to get the absolute value by itself, all this stuff. Okay? And a lot of us just didn't follow those rules at all. Okay? One of the biggest issues was y'all were treating it just like an equation. You were disregarding the absolute value altogether. So y'all were trying to distribute that too. Okay? We cannot distribute here. That is not a parentheses. Okay? So the absolute value, you cannot touch it. Okay? So I need to get the absolute value by itself. I can't distribute the 2 in. All right? So how am I going to get rid of it to get the absolute value alone? Okay?
Wait, don't you still try to
No, okay, I'm trying to get this by itself. That absolute value is untouched. I cannot do anything to it right now. So I just need to get it alone. So I need to do something with that too. What's the operation? To what's currently happening? This is multiplication. Okay, that's what's currently happening, but I can't distribute it in because it's not a parentheses. So what's the opposite of multiplication? Divide. So I need to divide both sides by 2. Okay, so I got to divide both sides by 2. So the absolute value of n plus 8 gets a lone. And what's 26 divided by 2? 13. Okay, now you have to create 2 equations. Okay, because my absolute value is equal to a positive. If it was equal to a negative, what would my answer be? No solution. Okay, a lot of us forgot that on the test. Okay, so I have to create 2 equations here. Okay, some of us weren't even creating 2 equations. All right, so you need one equal to positive 13, and you need one equal to negative 13. Okay, also some of us were trying to create our 2 equations here. Okay, you can't create your 2 equations until you get the absolute value by itself. So I have n plus 8 equals 13, and n plus 8 equals negative 13. Okay, and now I have equations that I can solve. Subtract 8 from both sides, I get n equals 5, and I subtract 8 from both sides over here. What's negative 13 minus 8? Negative 21, yes. So those are your 2 answers, 5 and negative 21. Okay, we're going to keep doing these, and I'm putting these on your next test again, because I want to give you a chance to redeem yourself. Okay, so we're going to keep doing these as bell ringers, and they'll show back up on your test. Okay. All right, if you have no questions about the bell ringer, you may put it away. This should be on the same page as Wednesday's bell ringer. We did not. No, Wednesday was our first bell ringer. And we'll figure out at another time when they're coming in. There's no point in turning them into 2 bell ringers. All right. So today we are going to continue talking about inequalities. All right. Today we are talking about compound inequalities. Okay. So a compound inequality consists of 2 or more inequalities joined together by one of 2 words. Or and. Does that sound at all familiar? Or and. Some of us yes, some of us no. So compound inequality is joined by either or and. Okay. While I'm thinking about this, on Tuesday, so I'll send you a message on Monday. We'll have a quiz on Wednesday's lesson and this lesson at the end of class. Okay, it'll be short again, 5, 6 questions. All right. So we'll do that at the end of class on Tuesday. So I'll send you a message to remind you. All right. To be a solution of an or inequality, a value must make only one part of the inequality true. Okay, so we'll talk about more about what that means once we actually solve one. But to be an or inequality, a solution of one, the value must make one part of the inequality true. Okay, to be a solution of an and inequality, it must make both parts true. So it has to fit both answers. Okay, and then also when 2 inequalities are joined with and, they are often written as a double inequality like so. Okay, negative 1 is less than equal to x is less than 2. In other words, if I wanted to write that as an and inequality, I would say x is greater than or equal to negative 1 and x is less than 2. So sometimes, if you see just one inequality written just like this, that's going to be an and inequality. Okay, but we'll talk more about that once we actually do some examples. Okay. So let's start off with the ors. Okay, so we're going to start off with the ors because I think those are easier. All right. So same as before, we're going to solve it and then we're going to graph it. Okay. So I have the inequality 7x minus 5 is greater than negative 5, or negative 8 minus 10x is greater than or equal to 12. Okay, so we're going to solve these as like they're 2 separate problems. We're going to solve the first inequality, and then we're going to solve the second inequality. So let's solve the first one first. Okay, I need the 7x alone. So what do I need to do with this negative 5? Add it. Okay, so I get 7x is greater than, what's negative 5 plus 5? 0. Okay, you still remember you got to get x alone. So what do I need to do with that 7? Divide. What's 0 divided by 7? 0. Okay, do I need to flip my sign? No, because I didn't multiply or divide by a negative. So my first answer is x is greater than 0. All right, now we're going to solve the second inequality. All right, so I need the negative 10x alone. Remember, whatever's with x you want by itself. So what do I need to do with that negative 8? Add it. Okay, I need to add it. Good. All right, so I have negative 10x is greater than or equal to 20. All right, so last thing, divide both sides by negative 10. X is, what's 20 divided by negative 10? Negative 2. Well, what am I going to do to my sign? Flip it. Okay, so there are my two answers. X needs to be greater than 0 or less than or equal to negative 2. So it needs to be greater than 0 or less than negative 2. Okay, so we're going to graph that on the number line. Okay, so let's see. We can just put 0 in the middle, and you can go as far left and right as you want. I kind of went a little further than 1 or 2 just to show what's happening. So I'm going to go 4. I think what I did on these, no, I wasn't consistent. Just to get the point across. Okay? And we're going to graph each inequality that we just found the answer to. All right? So x is greater than 0. Okay? Is that going to be an open or closed circle? Open, because it's just greater than. And because I want greater than 0, does my arrow need to point to the left or the right? The right, because I want everything larger than 0. Look again. I want everything larger than 0. So my arrow needs to point this way. Okay? For the next one, x is less than or equal to negative 2. Is it open or closed? Closed. And I want everything less than negative 2. So I want everything smaller than negative 2 or more negative. So which direction do I need to point? Left. Because I want everything smaller. Okay? So when you have an or inequality, your arrow should always point opposite directions. Okay? So when you have an or, there's special cases, but we're not going to go over them. Your inequalities should always point opposite directions when you have an or. Okay? Because I need x, so whatever x is, I need it to be greater than 0 or less than negative 2. I can't have both. Okay? Let's try number 2. Okay? So remember, we talked about on Wednesday that you want to try and get your variables all on the left side of your inequality. It's just going to make your life 10 times easier. Okay? So if I want all of my variables on the left side of my inequality, let's deal with this first inequality first. Do I need to move the 4a over or the 7a? If I want all my variables on the left. The 4a. Okay. So I need to subtract it. So I have 7a minus 4a, that is 3a plus 8 is greater than 5. So I got all my variables on the left, which is what I want. Okay. From here, I can solve. I need to get 8 on the other side, so subtract. So I have 3a is greater than negative 3. And then how do I get a alone? Divide by 3. Am I going to flip my sign? No, okay, because I'm not dividing by a negative. All right, my numerator can be negative, but my denominator, it's positive, so I'm not going to flip it. So A is greater than negative 1. So that's my first one. Okay. For my second one, all right, remember you want all of your variables on the left. Subtract the 3a, yes, subtract the 3a. So you get 2a plus 10 is greater than negative 2. All right. Minus 10, exactly, you need the 2a alone, so subtract 10 from both sides. What's negative 2 minus 10? Negative 12. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Am I going to flip my inequality? No. So negative 12 divided by 2, that's A, is less than negative 6. All right. Now we need to graph it. Now we need to graph it. So let's see. So I'm going to start with negative 7. Okay, you just need to be able to fit what you want, like whatever our inequality is, on the number line. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily matter where you start, but notice I went one to the left and one to the right. You just need to be able to get your point across. So you don't want to just put a negative 6 and a negative 1. That's not going to help you. You need to have some numbers in between, some numbers after it and before it. Okay? So my inequality, my answer is A is greater than negative 1 or less than 6. All right, let's start with the negative 1. Is it going to be open or closed? Open, because it's just greater than. And since I want all the numbers larger than negative 1, I'm pointing to the left or the right? The right. Okay, I'm getting larger. All right, so go to the right. And then A is less than 6. Open or closed? Open again. And since I want everything less than negative 6, left or right? Left, yes. Very good. All right. We're going to skip 3 just for time, because I spent a lot of time at the beginning of class talking about your test. We're going to move to number 4. Okay, so we're going to skip 3. I'll give you, actually, let me give you the answer for 3. That way you can try it at home. All right, so for your answer for number 3, n is greater than or equal to 0, or n is less than negative 1. Okay, I want you to try that at home. That will be good practice. So there's your answer. You can use that to practice and check yourself, because you've got the answer. You just got to do the work. Okay? All right, let's move on to number 4. Okay. All right, let's start with the 5x minus 12 is less than 8. So I need to get the 5x alone. So what do I need to do with the negative 12? Add the 12, good. So I get 5x is less than 20. Divide both sides by 5. What is x less than? I'm sorry, divide both sides by 5. So 4, yes. All right, and then I need to subtract 1. Negative 2x is less than or equal to, what's negative 5 minus 1? Negative 6. Divide both sides by negative 2. What's negative 6 divided by negative 2? Positive 3. And do I need to flip my inequality? Yes, because I divided by a negative. Very good. So x is greater than or equal to 3. Okay. Now we're going to graph. That's not what I want. That's not what I wanted either. Whatever. Okay. So let's see. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll be fine. So let's start off with our first inequality. So remember, our answer is x is less than 4 or greater than 3, or greater than or equal to 3. Okay? So let's start off with the less than 4. Open or close? Open. And is my arrow going to go left or right? Left, because I want everything smaller. Good. Okay. And then the greater than 3. Open or closed? Closed. In what direction am I going to point? Right. Okay. But this is kind of different. All the others, they've been nowhere near each other. Okay. Notice that I have the whole number line here, right? I have the entire thing. There's nowhere that it stops. Because even though this is an open circle, this bottom part does include the 4. Because it's x is less than 4 or greater than or equal to 3. So if you have the whole number line, what do you think your answer is going to be? All real numbers. Very good. Okay. If you have the entire number line, your answer is all real numbers. Very good. Or that fancy little r. Because I've got the whole number line. Okay. Because I don't have anything that has a gap. Whereas, like, for example, here, you see how I have a gap, Tina?
So like when they like,
So they stack.
yeah.
Sort of, if they stack over each other, okay? Because every other or we've had has gone opposite ways. And here they're still going opposite ways, but there's an overlap, okay? Because I'm going from 4 all the way to negative infinity. I'm going from 3 all the way to positive infinity. They overlap at some point, and they keep going for forever and ever from negative infinity to infinity. So because they overlap and they keep going in opposite directions, your answer is all real numbers. Whereas before, as you can see, the numbers -5 to -2 aren't included. Okay? All right, that's all for the ors. Okay, except for number 3, obviously, but we got to move on. Are there any questions? All right, let's move on to the ands. So we're still going to solve them the same way. Okay? The challenging part comes with graphing it. So you still solve the 2 inequalities as separate things. Okay? So for number 5, subtract 1. Very good. That's our starting point. Subtract 1. Subtract 1. So you get 9x is less than what? -36. Good. And then I need to divide both sides by 9. Am I going to flip my inequality? No, because I'm dividing by a positive. Very good. So x is less than what? -4. Okay. Now I need to solve the second one. Okay. Add 5. Very good. So 6x is greater than or equal to, what's -65 plus 5? -60. Divide both sides by 6. Does my inequality flip? Nope. X is greater than or equal to -10. Okay? So that is your and. Okay? On your homework, okay, it's going to ask you to write it in inequality notation. Okay, for the ors, you're going to write it exactly as we did. But for the ands, it's a little bit different. Okay? So we know that x is less than 4, right? Or -4. Okay? If I flip the second part, okay, I have -10 is less than or equal to x. Okay? So what happens when you're writing it in inequality notation? Your signs are always going to be less than. Okay? X will always be in between them, but where you put the numbers, you go from least to greatest. So -10 is smaller than -4, right? Okay? So I'm going to list that first. The sign with it, so you have to, all your signs have to be less than when you're writing it as inequality notation. It's going to ask you to do that on your homework. Okay? Inequality, write that down. Inequality notation. That's what we've been doing, but when you have an and, you have to write it like that. So all of your signs need to be flipped so they're less than. Okay, and then you're going to put your numbers in order from least to greatest. So I have a -10, that's smaller than -4. Okay. would encourage you, if you have trouble with that on your delta math, to go back and listen to this in the video. Okay? So it's kind of a complicated topic. Okay. All right. So that's just for inputting it. Now we can go and graph it. Okay? All right. So now we can go and graph it. I don't know why it's doing that. I don't know why it's not coming out straight, but you get the idea. Okay? So let's think about this. So 11, no, whoops. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Negative 11, negative 10, negative 9, negative 8, negative 7, negative 6, 5, 4, 3. Okay, we're going to graph it just like we have in the past. Okay, so I want x less than negative 4. So open or closed? Open. And since I'm less than, am I going left or right? Left. Okay. Now I have x is greater than negative 10. Or greater than or equal to. So open or closed? Closed. Am I going to go left or right? Right. Okay. The thing with the and, so your answer is not going to be all real numbers here. Right? If it were or, it would be all real numbers. But with the and, you want your answer to meet both of these conditions. So you want whatever your x is to be less than negative 4 and greater than or equal to negative 10. Okay, so your answer is essentially the overlap region. So everything that's the same.
So negative 9 or negative 5.
So erase anything that goes past the negative 10 and the negative 4. Okay? That's going to be your answer. And the way you'll graph it as one line. So if I have the same numbers here, so this is negative 10, this is negative 4, it's going to look like this. So on your homework, it's going to be graphed as one line. It's going to be everything in the overlap. Okay. Let me explain that again. Okay. So we graphed it as we normally did. Okay. Anything that isn't the same in the overlap region, you erase. Okay. And then you're going to combine it into one because your answer needs to be one line. Okay. So just combine it into one. I have a closed circle at negative 10. I have an open circle at negative 4. My answer has to be in between negative 10 and 4, negative 4. Does anyone have any questions about that?
So that's the answer.
This is your answer right here in green. Yes. So this is what you will graph. And then what I had in green up here is what you're going to put in delta math. Okay. Are there any questions about that before we try another? Because I know that's a lot to wrap your mind around. Yes.
So, like, I just need a review.
Okay.
So we do it like how we solve it like how we usually do.
Yep. Solve it like you normally do.
And then
Okay.
and then we do least to greatest.
Yes. Okay. So in your homework, you have to write it in what's called inequality notation. Okay. On your test, I'm fine with this. But on your homework, you have to write it differently. Hold on just a second. Okay. So I need to write it in inequality notation. So inequality notation, you have to have your sign being less than. Okay. So if you have one that's greater than, just flip it. So this I flipped. Okay. You have to write it in terms from least to greatest. Okay. So negative 10 is less than negative 4. So I'll put the negative 10 there. Its sign was the greater than or equal to, so I'll flip that to the less than or equal to. The x has to go in between. And then the 4 had a less than. Okay. All right. From here, then you graph it as you normally would. So this had an arrow that kept going. This had an arrow that kept going. But I want the numbers that fall into the region that both. So I want whatever x is to be less than negative 4 and less than or equal to negative 10. So it has to fall in that region. So that's why I erased the arrows, and then you have to graph it as one inequality, which would be this. why do you? There is a reason that I cannot think of at the moment. I will think about it. There's a reason that I cannot think of at the moment.
So you're okay with like that answer, right?
For your test, yes, I am fine with this for your quiz. But on Delta Math, you have to put it in like that. Okay? All right, are there any questions before we move forward?
Wouldn't that just be like an or? You solve it exactly like an or.
Yes, the change is when you get here to the graphic. Yes, the change is when you get to the graphic. Yes, so you still solve it like an or. Just like I did last time. Yep. All right. Let's see. Let's try. Yeah, let's try 6. All right. So still, it's an and, but we're still gonna solve it like we normally do. Okay. So I need the negative 9p alone. So what do I need to do with that negative 5? Add it because it's negative. To get it to the other side, I need to make it positive. All right. What is 76 plus 5? 81. And I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 9. Does my inequality flip? Yes. So P is greater than or equal to negative 9. Very good. Okay. Leave it alone for now. Move on to the next one. Okay. Once again, the 6p needs to be alone. So what I need to do with that negative 5? Add it. Yep. Okay. 6p is less than what? 12. Divide both sides by 6. Do I need to flip it? No. So p is less than 2. So it has to meet both conditions. It needs to be greater than or equal to negative p and less than 2.
So if it was it would be regularly -9 greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to.
So you have to flip it. Yep. So they all have to be less than. So the negative 9 is the smaller one, right? It's less. Exactly. Okay, so all of your signs in inequality notation have to be less than, or less than or equal to. So exactly, you'll flip this one. Negative 9 is smaller, so negative 9 is less than or equal to p, and then p is less than 2. Yes, so that is your inequality notation. Good. Okay, now we need to graph it. Okay, we're going to try and graph it one time. Okay, let's see. So I have, let's go by, I'm going to go by 2s. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to go by 2. So negative 10, whoa. Negative 10. Oh, you'll see what I'm doing in just a second. Okay. Negative 10. Oh my lord. Turn off. 10. Whatever. Negative 10. Negative 8. Negative 6. Negative 4. Negative 2. 0. 2. 4. So in the middle, I'll have negative 9, negative 7, so on and so forth. I need to be able to write. Oh my lord. Whatever. We're going to roll with it. Okay, that would be negative 10. Negative 10. That looks so stupid. Negative 8. Negative 6. Negative 4. Negative 2. 0. 2. 4. Okay. Thank you. All right. So I want p, so look back here when you're putting it on the graph. I want p to be greater than negative 9. So at p, is it going to be open or closed? Closed. Okay. All right. We'll deal with connecting it in a second. For p less than 2, is that open or closed? Open. Okay. If I'm greater than negative 9, am I going to the left or the right? The right. If I'm less than 2, I'm going to the left, right? So they need to connect. Good. Okay, so when you have an and, they're going to connect. When you have an or, they're going to go separate ways.
Oh, all right. I wrote it because I wrote the thing how we was number one, so I had like two going over one. They're both consistent.
Okay. So does that make sense how we graph it? Okay.
You just said and is
They connect with and
then
or they go opposite ways. Because the and has to meet both conditions. I need a number that is greater than -9 and less than 2. So that's all these numbers right here. So for example, 4 does not meet this condition because it's greater than -9, but it's not less than 2. That's what the and means. Okay, does that make more sense? So it's got to meet both conditions. All right, let's flip to number 7. Okay, flip to number 7.
This would be
This is still an and, okay? So if you actually flip back to the front for just a second. Okay, look at that last statement before we start number 1. When two inequalities are joined with and, they are often written as a double inequality like so. Okay, so this is technically an and inequality. Okay, so if you want to rewrite it as an and inequality, whatever, you're going to say 4 is less than or equal to r plus 5, and r plus 5 is less than or equal to 6. You can. But it gets a little more complicated when you have more numbers. Okay. This one will be easy to solve, but once you throw in more stuff, it gets more complicated. So I want you to separate it into two inequalities. This and this. Yay. That's what I need to do. Okay. So separate it into two inequalities. Just put and in between. Okay. Now we can solve it like we normally would. Okay. So for here, r is already on the side by itself. It's not on the right side, but we'll deal with that in just a second. So let's just subtract 5. Yes, so subtract 5 from both sides. So you have -1 is less than or equal to r. Okay? If I want it written with r on the left, I just take this entire thing and flip it. So that's going to be r is greater than or equal to -1. So if you ever have r on the opposite side, just simply flip the entire thing. Okay? And then over here, this is real easy. Subtract by 5. You have r is less than or equal to 1. All right. Let's write it in inequality notation. Okay, which number is smaller, -1 or 1? -1. Perfect. Perfect. So you flip your signs, they're all less than, and they go from least to greatest. Very good. And because they were all had the or equal to, all of them need the or equal to here. Very good. Okay, now we can graph it. So this is real easy. We can just go from -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. Okay. Let's try and put it all into one piece at first. Okay. I have r is greater than or equal to -1. Is that open or closed? Closed. Okay. R is less than or equal to 1. Open or closed? Closed. All right, I have r is greater than or equal to -1. So which direction am I going to go? Right. And then if I have r is less than 1, which direction? Left. So they're going to connect. So the only numbers I can have that make this inequality true, because remember, it's got to fit both. R is greater than or equal to -1, and r is less than 1. The only three options are -1, 0, and 1. There's nothing else that fits into that. Is it starting to make more sense? Okay, good. All right, we're going to skip 8. You solve it just like number 7. Split it into two inequalities, put the and in between, and solve. Okay, but we're gonna move on to number 9. Just because 9 is a little more involved. Yes. Do what? Yes, you know. Yes. Okay. So number 9. Okay, this is why I want you to split it up, because the first one you could have easily solved, but now you don't want to complicate. All right, so we're going to split it into 2 inequalities. Okay. -1 minus 8b is less than 7b minus 1. And 7b minus 1 is less than or equal to 5 plus b.
How do you know where to separate?
So this middle part, good question. Okay, this middle part has to go with those. Oops. Thanks. That middle part, so the 7b minus 1 has to go with both inequalities. So like with here, the r plus 5 went with both. So the same thing has to happen here. That middle piece, the 7b minus 1, has to go with both inequalities. Okay, good question. Yes, exactly. Whatever's in between the symbols goes with both. Yes. Very good question. All right. Now we can solve it, okay? Let's try and get our variables on the left, even if it might end up being more complicated. Okay? Let's see. Okay. So let's get our variables on the left. So move the 8b or the 7b? The 7b. So subtract 7b. Okay, bring down the -1. What is -8 minus 7? -8 minus 7. -15, very good. B is less than -1. Alright. So now I need my constants on the same side. So I need to add the 1. Okay. So I have -15 is less than 0. Okay. You still have to get B alone. Okay. You can't just say right here that B is 0. Okay. You still got to get it alone. So divide. Lord. Divide both sides by -15. So you get B alone, so you're left with B. What's 0 divided by -15? 0. But what do I need to do with my sign? Flip it, because I divided by a negative. So even though I'm saying 0 divided by a number, because I'm still dividing by a negative, I flip it. Okay, so B is greater than 0. And then for the last one, remember there's an imaginary 1 out front. My screen is all sorts of messed up. So subtract the 1v or the v. Yep. So you get 6v minus 1 is greater than, or less than or equal to, 5. Add the 1. So you get 6v is less than or equal to 6. Divide by 6, so what is v? Good. So it has to meet these 2 categories. It has to be greater than 0 and less than 1. Okay, let's write it in inequality notation form. Okay, which number is less? The smaller. 0. So 0, I need to flip that because they all got to be less than. So 0 is less than v. It's going to be the next side. Less than or equal to, because that's what's with the 1, and then 1. All right, and then your number line. Let's see. -1, 0, 1, 2. Okay. At 0, it's going to be open or closed. Open. At 1, closed. And then we're going to connect them. So essentially everything between 0 and 1. So a half, 3/4, so on and so forth. Okay. All right. All right. Let me give you all the answers for 8 and 10. in, and then I think since card riders are gonna get dismissed shortly, we'll just call it a day there. Okay, so for number 8. Okay, I'm just gonna have to write it because my board's being wonky. All right, number 8. Your answer, I'm gonna give it to you in inequality notation form. Okay, so that's gonna be how you have to input it on Delta Math. So -6 is less than k is less than or equal to -5. So that's number 8. And remember, you have to graph it, obviously. And then number 10 is 2 is less than or equal to a is less than 4. Okay, so those are your answers for 8 and 10. All right, before you pack up, all right, you have Delta Math. Okay, if you finish it tonight, you get the 2 bonus points. Okay, you have until Tuesday, which is nice. If you finish it before class Tuesday, you get the 1 bonus point. Okay, remember, you have to submit your scratch as a PDF in order to get credit. Some of us are still submitting it as you're just taking a picture and doing it that way. I really need you to do a PDF. That's a guaranteed way that I can do it. Okay? Do you have a question? No, I'm saying that's fine. It's still due on whatever it is, the 30th. You just won't get the 2 bonus points. That's all. So, yeah, you still get full credit. Yes, darn. Okay, so it's due. It's still due the day of your quiz. So remember, on Tuesday next week, I'll send out a message on Monday. We'll have a quiz on 1.5 and 1.6. Okay, so it's still due that night. So you just won't get the bonus. So you'll still get the full credit as long as you do it by the 30th. So, not a problem. I imagine that, yeah, you got